This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com with another episode of Fast Action Fridays. And I am delighted to welcome back Yvonne A Jones, who's joining me from her home in Florida, and I'm up here in Michigan. We're going to be diving into relationship marketing, which is something we both excel at. And Yvonne's going to be taking us deeper into how to become best friends with your client avatar, which I think is a terrific topic for discussing here. Yvonne, share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Kat. And first, I want to say thank you so much for having me back. It's an honor to be a repeat guest, so I truly appreciate it. And let's see a little bit about myself. Let me start on the business side, is that my ideal client is a female entrepreneur, 50 or wiser, who is a coach, consultant, small business owner as well, and who has been in business for at least 1 year. Has a few clients and is ready to grow her business so that she can make more money, create more impact, and have fun in their business. Because really, Kat, if we are entrepreneurs and we're not having fun in our business, what's the point, right?
We might as well be back at that job.
Exactly. And there might not be nothing wrong with that for some people, but for us, no, we're on the entrepreneurial journey and we want to stay there. And as regards Yvonne, the woman, I am a mother and a nana to three little ones, 7, 6, and 3. Love my grandchildren. And as you can hear from my accent, or you may not know, but you hear that accent and you're not sure where that accent is from. I'm from Jamaica, transplanted Jamaican to America because I've been here 30 years. And I just love what I do. I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2006, and there have been ups and downs, but for the most part, it's fun. I love it, and I love empowering women.
And we have been friends on Facebook for a long time. I'm not sure I even remember where we originally hooked up. I know that I can tell listeners that Yvonne was one of my guests on Fast Action Friday back in the Blab platform days, and that's been several years now.
It has.
All right. So let's talk about our ideal client. How do we tell who it is?
That's a great question, because it can be a challenge for many to identify who the ideal client is. And before I say how we know who it is so very important to make sure that we clearly identify, we know who our ideal client is, because one of the challenges that I see with women that I work with, and I know this because I experienced it for years in the past when I didn't know what to do correctly. And it's that we work so hard at marketing. We create these wonderful messages, but the message is not getting to our ideal client because we haven't taken the time to identify who that is first. And so if you're just talking, it's basically like talking to the air, because your message is so diluted, it's not reaching the person. It's not reaching the person that you'd like it to. It's not clear enough. There's no clarity. So it's muddled, and nobody's hearing the message and saying, oh, she's talking to me. That sounds like the problem I'm having. And that is so essential in getting now to be the best friends with the avatar, is to know exactly who this is. And what I'd like to do, Kat, is that a lot of people just share that you need to know the demographics, the psychographics, and so on and so forth. What I'd like to do today is a little twist to that. And this is something that I normally do with my one-on-one clients. I work with them to help them to get their marketing in place. And so what we do is in 4 steps, basically. So yes, we begin by creating the perfect client avatar. And here's what I do with my clients, first of all. Identify first what you offer. There's some school of thought that you're to find the problem, and then you find how you can solve it. That's okay if you're experienced. But for someone who is fairly new, that might be even more challenging. They need to know what it is they offer. So what is it the entrepreneur offer? What are your products?
Mm-hmm.
And so I made sure to put the questions down here. So I'm going to basically read them off so that I don't mess up. It's what are your best skills? What do you excel at? What is your niche? And where do you want to focus? Those are the two primary questions. And Kat, I really love how Michael Port, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's the author and creator of the book Yourself, Solid Book and System. Mm-hmm. And he distinguishes between your niche and your target market. And Michael Port says that your target market is the group of people you serve. And your niche is the service that you specialize in offering to your target market. So then it becomes clear now. So you have your target market and your niche. So what problem do you solve that people in your target market are eager to pay for?
Right.
Does that make sense so far?
Right. And I do like Michael's distinction. And the questions seem easy to answer. And both of us know that without a good amount of thought, they're not easy to answer. And for some people, even with a lot of thought, they're still not easy to answer. And right. You have to take time to try some wording out, to adjust and tweak things over time, because who you thought you wanted to serve and who you are most passionate about serving, that can change over time as well. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. It certainly does, because I can remember when I started online in 2008, and I finally had a mentor in 2009, mid-2009, I thought for quite a while that I wanted to work with beginners, beginning people who just started to learn about online marketing. And about 2 years in, I realized I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through okay, you need a domain and you need all those beginning stuff. And I discovered, well, it may have been more than 2 years. Yes, it was. I discovered that I wanted someone, my ideal, the person I love working with was actually someone who had been in business for at least a year. So they had the basics in place. And so I could take them from there and help them to move forward, rather than starting from the beginning of purchasing a domain, setting up your WordPress site and all like that. So our market can change. And eventually, at one time, I worked as a local business consultant, because as soon as I started networking back in 2010, 2011, I recognized that small business owners needed to be online. They had a message to share, as long as their market was not, their market was somewhere that they could reach people online in a wider audience. So I actually work with those people too. The small business brick and mortar. So it evolved over time to know I love working with a woman who is 50, a woman like myself who is 50 and wiser.
Mm-hmm. And we both made that journey, and we came to different conclusions, because one of the things I discovered along my own journey is I wanted to serve people who were struggling with the same things I had struggled with, but didn't easily find answers for. So my ideal client, my perfect passionate client, the ones that become my favorite clients to work with, they're just temporarily stumped, stuck, or stalled along their journey. And this may be at the beginning, because I don't mind helping beginners, but more often they are partway along the way and just suddenly found that what worked for them in the past is no longer working now. So my specialty is helping them identify exactly what that obstacle or hidden barrier is. Because it's kind of like a medical diagnosis. Once you have an accurate one, then you can look at the solutions for that. So even though we service similar markets and niches, we offer very individual approaches to dealing with that. And I love that. Yes.
All right.
So what else can you tell us that is helpful to know about becoming best friends? Why best friends with our client avatar?
Well, best friends share a lot, right? And best friends can count on each other. When you know exactly who your perfect client is, then you're able to know exactly who you will serve. So in order to become best friends, after you have identified who your avatar or your perfect client is, then the next thing you want to do is to be where they are so that they get to know you and get to hear your message. Because again, best friends hang out with each other, right? So if our ideal clients are on LinkedIn, then we want to be there. If they're on Facebook, we want to be there. We want to be visible so that we can attract them to us, because it's all about building relationships. It's not selling first.
Right.
It's building the relationships first. And then when we are there and we know who we want to serve, what the problems are, and how we solve it for them, then we can build that relationship with them, provide them with value. So meet them where they are, so to speak, provide them with value. So they see us as a valuable resource. They also see us as someone who can provide them with the solution to the problem that they're having.
Yes, absolutely. And for those listening, we're talking metaphorically. You don't have to become personal best friends with your clients or others that you want to network with and build a customer client relationship with. That may happen. It's happened to me with some people, but we're talking about using the dynamics that make for a solid relationship. And take the best of that into our business, right?
Exactly. And in building the relationship, then we get to know what they want. Mm-hmm. They hear from us, the radio station, that's a favorite radio station. What's in it for me? What is it? WIIFM? Mm-hmm. Yes, they hear that radio station. They know what's in it for them. And it also helps us to be clear about whom we will serve, because one of the things we want to look at is if we're already building a tribe, it's like we both have groups, right? So then that would be a good place to start, because then who is already attracted to you? Who is attracted to me, already attracted to me, and see me as a resource? A valuable resource. Isn't it easier, just like in customer relationship, but they haven't become our customers yet, just thinking as we're saying metaphorically, isn't it easier to create a bond with people who already know you than to start with a stranger out there who has absolutely no idea about who you are, what you are, how authentic you are, whereas you have already built that kind of relationship with other people. So start there. Who is already attracted to you? Then as you decide on that, you determine that then is who needs the services that I have to offer. And so this is where you get down now. You take the time to identify that your perfect client, your avatar. Because yes, you're going to want to know the gender. You're going to want to know the education. There's so many things you want to know because you speak to different people in different ways. And even if it's the same way in your family relationship, how you may speak to your grandmother is not how you're going to speak to your grandchild. So you get to know who it is. And we don't talk to, if we're talking to, say, 50, 60-year-olds, there's a level of wisdom that's already there. It's inherent in the age. We're going to speak to them, and our message to them is going to be different from that to an 18, 20-year-old. Make sense?
It does
so it takes our getting to know their needs, and it also takes something from us. Just the same we would create a physical relationship, then we also want to have this desire to help others as well and be a valuable, I keep saying resource, but it is so important for us to be seen as a resource, not just a paid person, but as a resource for others.
And I'm glad you brought up resource, because for those who are watching, stay tuned till the end and you'll get a link to a free resource that Yvonne is making available called discover 5 ways to leverage customer relationships to grow your business quickly. And if you're listening to the podcast of this, just go to rockingyourpath.com and search for the Fast Action Friday episode with Yvonne A Jones, and you'll get the link there. What I like about what you're saying, and what we both admittedly do pretty well, is that when you know your target market and your niche, and you know how to speak to them in a way that they identify themselves, and they choose readily whether what we offer is of use to them. And it's a whole lot easier when the marketing and the sales are inbound than trying to be someone who's always chasing the sale outside, and looking at everybody as a potential customer or client, because that just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Or it may work, but it's so hard. Is it worth it? You have to put so much into it. And that segues beautifully, Kat, into the other aspect of what I love, and that is about once you have acquired these people, you have built a relationship, and these people now become your clients. Of course, one of the things, or have you found that one of the challenges, before I go to that, one of the challenges that many people have, I was about to say that we have to also, in addition, have a unique perspective as to what we bring to the table. Have you found that a lot of people find that extremely difficult to identify what their unique selling point is?
Yes, it is. I know what mine is and what resonates most with my clientele, but it took me years to really nail down the wording that makes it clear immediately to my ideal target. So I'm the Purgatory Relief Coach for people who think marketing is hell. If you're part of that demographic, that psychographic unit, you know it, and you know it immediately. But it took me years to understand that, even though I'm offering the same set of services that I previously did. So do you have other examples of how to do that, or how that sounds when we get it right?
Yeah, I would say I love what you just said, because I saw that description of you on LinkedIn. But one of the things that I have been able to narrow it down to, and I work with my clients in it, we get so caught up in our head and trying to make it so difficult and so challenging, when really one of the most important things that makes us different, makes us unique, is that we're bringing our own unique self. Everyone is an individual, so we're bringing our own. So even if you and I are doing the same thing, we're two different personalities. I always say somebody might not resonate with my Jamaican accent, and the other person will say, "I love your Jamaican accent." So we're bringing ourselves with our skills and our experiences and our knowledge, as well as the soft skills that we have acquired over the years. So it's a part of our personality, and things like compassion and empathy. Because I have personally, my method of coaching has been described to me as being kind but firm. Because I don't believe in bullying people or shaming them for them to achieve their goals, or this is not my way to get them to do what they need to do. But at the same time, I can be very firm, and I will give you a push if I need to. I won't say I give you a kick in the butt, but I'll give you a good nudge if you need it. So just bringing yourself, it doesn't have to be, you can have several of us, 6 of us doing relationship marketing, but we have our own individual strengths, our own individual weaknesses, and our personality, and people can see that. Oh. As long as we're not trying to pretend to be what we are not, then people can see through that and will either want to be with us or not.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I have had people say to me, how can you have other coaches and consultants that offer, quote, the same services you do? Aren't you afraid they're going to take your clients away or your market away? And my answer is, no, I'm not afraid of that. Because just like in school, the best teacher for any particular student isn't always the same person. the same is true, like you just pointed out, that different people resonate with certain people in better or more genial ways. And sometimes we grow, we learn from some person, and then maybe we need more of a even firmer grasp. So I call it graduating someone. I love to graduate someone from my program and send them to another coach or consultant or program that I think they are now ready for. Because I know that a lot of my clientele and a lot of my prospects love to hear about the 6 and 7 figure systems and how easy it is to get there. But they don't have the back end or their mindset or the experience yet to take advantage of that. So there's nothing wrong with those programs, but for them to jump into them right now would be a complete waste of their time, energy, and money, especially the money. But I love to graduate people into that. So I'm glad you brought up that even though we may sound on the surface like we service the same market, which we do, we may even service the same niche, which we do, though yours is more narrow than mine because I've always been 40-60, 60-40 male-female. It's just been a part of my dynamic since the beginning. So I don't particularly market just to women. There are other aspects that are very individual for each of us.
Absolutely. And the other thing that, as you made that point, that we need to be clear, because I find it so challenging to help people to get over, especially when they're in direct sales, even direct sales leaders, that they feel that by narrowing down their target market, they are eliminating a lot of people. And no, it's not that you can't work with a wider spectrum of people, but your message, the message is key. The message must be directed to your target market so that they can hear it. Because I work with men as well, and I've been successful in working with men. But I don't, the message to women is going to be different from the message to men. So rather than being so my men, the number of men I work with is much more limited. So it doesn't exclude them, but my message is going to be directed to female entrepreneurs.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Anything else you'd like to add to our conversation here? Because I really appreciate the simple clarity of how you've laid this all out for us.
The last thing I would say, well, not the last thing, I could say a lot more, but about the messaging, because that is what I see as the sticking point a lot of times, the messaging. So one is to design a clear message that answers the question, what's in it for me? It's important to focus on solutions to the problem that our avatar or our ideal client is having. And then you also want to be careful that you make sure that this is something that they will pay for. Because we can even do polls and find out. I see so many times in forums and all that people will write and say, I don't understand. I created a program, a training, but nobody's buying it. Yet when I put out a poll, so many people suggested this, so I went and created it. But the problem is that either the pain is not that great, or it's not a pain that they're going to be willing to pay for, or it's not something that they can afford to pay for. It's kind of like, you could have a problem with that's something that students need help with, say a tutor. But the market is not the student. If the student is the end user, the tutor would need to market to the parents. So if they go and market to the students are going to say, yeah, that would be wonderful. I need help with that, but they can't pay. They don't have the resource to pay for it. So in reality, your market has to be to the parent, the person who has the ability to pay. So it's important to create a strategy, as you do with your message, create a strategy to implement these, but also include in your strategy that you are going to be where your prospective clients are found. Because if they can't find you and hear your message, then what's the point?
Exactly.
So
You're both missing
it
out.
takes some hard work. Yeah, it takes a challenge at times. It takes, kind of like, that's another thing. None of these things happen overnight. And anybody who says you must do it this way, it's not really being totally authentic, because no, it doesn't work in every single niche the same way. Would you agree with that?
I would. It's like the overnight success for a first-time author. It's almost universally true that author spent years writing and working on that
That's
book.
right.
And it may look like an overnight success, but there was a lot of work that went into that beforehand. And just like we brought up at the beginning of our time together, it takes tweaking over time. And I find often that people are afraid to get it wrong in the beginning. They want the guarantee that what they're going to do is going to work from the get-go. And there are no guarantees. The only thing is you've got to get out there and try and adjust. And as you learn more about yourself and what you want to deliver to people who can't afford to pay you for your services and products, you'll learn more about them and how to reach them and where to find them, which is a big topic all on its own.
Yep. And so is the fact that what I would wrap up and say is that once you have identified your avatar, once you're sending a message to them, nurture that relationship. Because there have been people online, Kat, that it took me 2 years before I bought a product for them. But they kept me on they kept me on their mailing list. And 2 years after I got on their mailing list, I purchased the product. So you want to nurture that relationship even before they become your client, even for the onboarding stage, because they get to know you. And as they get to know you, it's not a fallacy when we say people buy. Bob Burg said it in The Go-Giver, all things being equal, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And I'm just condensing that. So we want to allow persons, don't expect that they're going to buy from us immediately. Sometimes they're ready, sometimes they're not. But even when they're not, continue to view them as someone like that best friend. You're building that relationship with that best friend, because eventually when they are ready, then they're going to consider you as the person, because you're a trusted resource to them. You have become that, whether it's over 6 months, over a year, you have become that trusted resource, and they see that you know what you're talking about and they want to learn from you.
Yeah. That's such great advice, Yvonne. And I want to remind listeners that if you're watching, you'll see the link to get Yvonne's free resource, which is Discover 5 Ways to Leverage Customer Relationships to Grow Your Business Quickly. And if you're listening to the podcast, go to rockingyourpath.com, search for the episode with Yvonne A. Jones. And thank you again for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, Kat, for having me. I certainly appreciate it. And you're a dynamic interviewer and lovely to talk with you as well. Thank you.
And just a reminder that something you said earlier is we both have Facebook groups that are active, and we're active in each other's groups as well. So watch for the social links to join us in our various groups and on our social media pages. This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, closing another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Join me next week when I'll have another great guest. And remember to always keep rocking your unique path to success. Bye-bye.